welcome to the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers' rendezvous. And this week we are rendezvousing with Bill Lippincott, the president of the Maine Antiquarian Booksellers Association. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Ed. Hi, Lee.
Hello, Bill.
And of course, my co-host here every week, physically, mentally, spiritually, Lee Linn from Ridge Books.
Well, sometimes we're not so sure about all of that. And I am this week from St. Augustine, and not from Calhoun.
Cool. Lee, did you know that this is the 27th edition of the Coffee Break edition?
That seems like a lot, and it does.
Well, here I am with my cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like coffee.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But we don't make judgments on what's in these cups.
It's just water.
Yeah, I have water too, but like I said, we don't judge it. You know, whatever you'd
Just
like to
for
have in your cup.
Who knows by the end of the interview?
Yeah.
It's 6 o'clock somewhere, and it's 6 o'clock here in Verona, Italy, so I feel like I'm authorized. Bill, what a pleasure to have you on the show. MABA, the Maine Antiquarian Booksellers Association. You guys have been around since 1981.
Actually, that's not right. I went last night. I have all the directories, and the first directory was 1977, so I have to talk with our webmasters. And
All right, but
handwritten notes, and I think the organization actually started in 1974 among 4 booksellers. But for sure, the first directory came out in 1977, so I've got one.
And how many?
that's tremendous.
How many members do you have?
Now? Or
Yeah. Then now.
Yeah, I mean we're down. I think we're at 35 now. We were up to over. We had well over 50 at one point. Not that many young people going into our profession.
That's right. And
Bill, I got to tell you, I lived in Maine back in the 80s, and I lived down in Cape Elizabeth. And I have to imagine, having lived there for a year, that winter is probably your busy season.
Well, when I had my bookshops in downtown Bangor, yeah, right before Christmas was great. And actually, Bangor was a great place for a downtown bookshop. So, and university just down the road. So I had year-round business. I mean, summer was busy too. You get people coming to the coast, but they fly in Bangor or whatever. That was a great location. Where I am now, it's on the end of Dead Road. I don't have any signs, so not quite the same. Get back. That's fine.
so are you open, or do you just open by appointment, or?
By chance, an appointment. Pretty much by appointment. You know, I ask people to call it.
Right.
You know, I could.
But Maine is a great place to snuggle up with a book in the winter.
It is, and I like. Winter is the time to work on books, although summer is the time to buy them. But yeah.
Well, it's
Bill, I went to your website, and I want to talk about something I noticed there that seems to be relatively universal with all book-selling organizations, and that's the code of ethics. I don't think people appreciate how seriously we take it and how universal a code of ethics is in our industry.
Well, I mean, it's important because our reputation is everything. And we've been pretty fortunate with our membership. Know of one dealer who, in our organization, did something very unethical, and it was in the paper. So, but, you know, we're pretty honest. He's no longer in our organization. Yeah. And, you know, I trust these people. And I'm fine, you know, sending things, and I'm sure they're going to pay for it. Yep.
Lee, what organizations are you a member of?
Well, I'm a member of the Georgia Antiquarian Booksellers Association, which is not.
And you have a code of ethics?
We do, but the organization is not very active at the moment. Partly because we quit doing a book fair, and so much of what we did revolved around the book fair. Which I think is probably the case with a lot of organizations. And I'm a member of MABA, that's it. And I have my own website, and I list on Abe and Amazon, but I think I'm about to quit that and go to something else. But you're right about, I think most people in our industry really do try very hard to be honest about their products and be reasonable about their pricing and help each other out. I don't see a lot of rabid competition. Booksellers tend to help each other.
Yep.
And I have found it to be, as a whole, whatever organization you may belong to, a very welcoming group of people and a helpful group of people.
Yeah.
And then when I suddenly was on my own with this, a lot of support from other booksellers, which was really good.
Now, I've only been a bookseller for 7 years.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, I've never had a return. And I don't know that many booksellers that get returns based upon their an inaccurate description or a unethical sale.
No, I've had very few returns, and frequently they don't make sense. It's somebody decided they didn't want a book, that kind of thing, rather than because some people are so used to being able to buy from other sites and return anything they want to, with no reason whatsoever, and yet most of us try very, very hard to be accurate in the description, to provide pictures, to package well, to try to avoid damage to the book. And I don't get a lot. And when I return a book, if I have to return a book, it's usually because of an error in description, and usually whoever I'm returning it to is very apologetic about it. And I have been, on some occasions that there was a mistake in the description. And,
Sure.
And you return it. You don't
Mistakes happen.
argue about it. Mistakes happen. They do.
Yeah. I hardly ever.
Now, Bill, do you have
Go ahead.
a book fair in Maine?
We used to. We had one sponsored by MABA in Portland for many years. And we actually, a bunch of us in my area, had a Northern Maine Antiquarian book fair in Bangor for 3 years back in the heyday. And it was actually a good fair. But it's a lot of work for whoever organized it. And we haven't had a book fair in Maine. Don't see that happening again. Too bad.
No.
Are there New England book fairs that you attend
Well, I'm doing.
outside of Maine?
I'm doing the October 28th. It's the Shadow Show, the ABA show in Boston. So I will be there.
And I am too.
Oh, great!
So I'll see you.
Wonderful. So maybe I'll see what I have for Georgia
Right.
material.
Well, this is the first time that I have gone this far. Richard Morey talked me into it, and so we'll see how it goes. Of course, I'm shipping my books and then flying.
I can just drive, so that's a little bit simpler.
Yeah. Well, normally that I would drive to wherever, but I'm looking forward to it. I've never been to Boston, and so I'm excited about the trip.
Yeah. No, I've done Boston book series for over 30 years, different ones. But what's nice about this, you stay in the same hotel where the fair.
Right.
Not that.
Yeah. One year the Atlanta show was in a hotel, and it was wonderful. You just walk downstairs. It was great. Yeah. So this should be good, and
It used to be, I don't know, 10 blocks away from the ABA show, so a little bit of a, but actually, now
just almost across the street.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah. Both ways. So, sure.
Bill, what type of material would you say is organic to Maine?
Well, I mean, one of my specialties is books on the Maine word. It starts actually that the row published after Maine words are not on book. So that's certainly one of the highlights. But Jonathan Fisher, ministers, scripture animals, I don't know. His own natural history, he made his own woodcuts, copied from other artists. But that's a fairly rare book. That's not that. Okay.
How about nautical material? I heard a crazy statistic one time that the state of Maine has more coastline than the rest of the eastern United States. And when you factor in all of the bays and the coves and the islands, I can see that's possible. But does that result in much nautical material?
Well, it's also one of the shipbuilding centers of the United States. So, you know, and originally people came to Maine for the Hynes masts. So, and at one point, Maine was the lumber capital of the world and a major port. And you know, Maine has been in the trade, maritime trade, for as long as people settled in the States. So, and certainly it's a tradition of nautical material and boat building, ship building. Even say there's wooden boat school. So, yeah, it's in Maine. Captains sailed all around the world.
Cool. And you have a maritime academy there somewhere, don't you?
Maine Maritime Academy.
Maine Maritime Academy.
And there's also the Penobscot Marine Museum. So, yeah. And people in the summer, of course, people sail up to Maine. So,
Not many people sail on the Ridge, Georgia, are there, I believe?
No, however, we have a lot of lakes, and people do sail on the lakes. We have a lot of. Most of the lakes are the result of damming up for hydroelectric,
oh, really?
purposes. Like Carter's Lake, which is just not but a few miles from where I live, is now, because of the damming, a great recreational area. It even has a pair of eagles that nest right on the edge of the lake. Have been there for years, and osprey, and it has boating and fishing, and it's cabins, and it's a really nice area. So we do have boating. It's just not ocean boating.
Well, let me remind everybody that you are listening to or watching an edition of the Rare Book Cafe, the Book Lovers Rendezvous. Our producer, T. Alan Smith. Alan, throw up a logo of MABA, if you can, for a moment there. Folks, you can listen to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are given away for free. All right, what's that big black bear doing in the middle of your logo, Bill?
Appears that he's standing on a book, which I'm not sure is the best thing for that book. But this bear obviously...
It's a darn big book with the bear standing on.
It is.
It is a big book, yes. But this bear has been trained to be very gentle.
Probably an elephant folio.
or Bear.
Is he reading The Three Bears or
The Bear.
Paddington, perhaps?
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think University of Maine mascot is the Black Bears, aren't they?
That is correct. And if you go to any games, there will be a person in bear outfit running along the sides. Quite the experience.
Well, the University of Georgia has somebody in a strange-looking bulldog suit, plus Uga, the bulldog, in his doghouse, surrounded by ice bags in the heat. So,
Well, there.
Uga?
yeah,
Is it UGA or OOGA?
UGA.
It must be UGA.
Yeah, it's Uga.
Uga. Oh, okay. Duh.
Yeah.
Bill, how's the health of the book industry in Maine, and are you starting to see some new blood come around?
I actually have seen some young collectors and some young dealers, which is really exciting.
Super.
But a lot of us, I'm 72. I've been doing this since 1975. Most of my colleagues are around my age. So I love to see young people coming in. There are a few. There's certainly not as many replacing people that we lost a few this year and last year and so on. One thing I've noticed, I don't really advertise at this point, and I'm backed up for book calls. I do house calls.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I buy books, and I've got 4 ahead of me right now, 2 of which sound really exciting. But you know, I can only look at so many books and work on them. It's a week. I've got a book there coming up. But in a way, it's nice to, you know, anything, well, many things that are rare and unusual take fun. So, I'll never run out of them. I can't be in 4 houses in 1 week. But the books are waiting, so I get to.
And then you have to go home and process all those books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they get heavier, I noticed.
Yeah, I think they do. The boxes get heavier.
So I really like, you know, manuscript letters. I really like manuscript letters, you know, or paper ephemera, you know.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you happen to have any material in front of you, Bill, but what were some of your most exciting recent finds? Share with us a couple of things that gave you the giggles.
Well, I was at a book sale in the area, and there's a couple other booksellers. And you look, you know, go to the special table first, and then go through everything, and you know, about 20 minutes. It wasn't a book sale. 20 minutes. I started looking. I looked at the special table. Looked, and then there was the collected paper, and so I went through, and there was a copy of Ubrix, which may not mean anything to either of you. There was a literary magazine published at the University of Maine, and one of the contributors was Stephen King. This is before Carrie. I have had it before, not quite a while, but it doesn't look like anything. There's nothing about King on the, you know, cover. Just a literary magazine, like many others that are not particularly noteworthy by their visual appearance. But I knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there were several issues, but that was the one. But you know, I just looked on. Okay. And there were 3 copies.
Is he an alumni of the university?
Yeah. Yeah, he was in a writing. That's where he met his friend Captain Spruce. And Michael Alford, who does very beautiful fine press work, and has done fine press work before. He was also on the writing seminar. So it's a nice combination. people.
Now, I have to admit, I am not a Stephen King aficionado, but are any of his books set in Maine as a
Oh, sure.
scenario?
Yeah. I mean, he calls Bangor Dairy, and the novel It is set in Bangor, and it's based on a true story of this gay teenager who's thrown off a bridge. I mean, that's part of it, and then he works that in. But you can recognize, I mean, he writes about in a lot of his work. He, my first and second stop in Bangor was down the street from his house on Broadway. And he would come in, he liked pulps and mysteries from the 50s. His wife liked literature, his son bought comic books. And actually, his son Joe worked on a comic book show for him. But he would sometimes, so I started as being second, and sometimes, without him telling me, he would sign all the books, and someone would come up and buy us
How cool.
whatever for $15.
Uh-huh.
Sell them if we go back and some of the other.
Wow, that's got to be so cool. What I mean, I understand you were at a reading recently,
Yes, I was.
an author reading.
Larry Baker, who lives in Iowa, but lived here in Florida for a long time, is an author that we've had on Rare Book Cafe a number of times with at least his last 3 books. And he did a reading at the library here in St. Augustine Tuesday night. The book is called Harry and Sue, and it takes place in an old theater in Oklahoma City that is peopled by ghosts of the performers who played there. Not movie, but live performances. And one of the things that happens in the book is this big party of all these ghosts, to which the narrator of the book is invited. He's not a ghost. Well, Larry decided to do a little skit about the party at his reading, and he had actors playing Mark Twain and Will Rogers and Marilyn Monroe, who was the main one at the party. The movie, the theater's old manager. Larry is a big Harry Chapin fan, and the book is based loosely on one of his songs, Taxi. And so he was one of the characters. And because of a specific song that she sang, Karen Carpenter was one of the characters. And it was a lot of fun. It was a very different kind of reading. Larry read, but then the characters read their parts and performed, and it was a lot of fun. And then the next day, I got to visit another Rare Book Cafe regular, Gigi Best, and her husband Skip Richardson, who are moving locations here in St. Augustine, and I got to go see her and see what they're doing and their new place. So it's been a real fun trip. You probably don't know, Bill, but I live in Calhoun, Georgia, which is about 500 miles from here. So it's been a nice little week-long trip for me.
I'll tell you, authors are national treasures.
I bought some books. I bought one book that needs Ed's touch when he gets, ready to branch out.
Nothing happens in the book ecosphere until an author writes and publishes a book. And I have to tell you, people like Larry Baker, people like Larry McMurtry, people like Stephen King are just national treasures.
And Larry, isn't a household name, but I've read about 5 of his books, and partly because I would say, what should I read? And he would send me another book. You know, which is kind of nice. And I've enjoyed them. I have enjoyed them. Some of them I found things that I found very relatable to me. And I've enjoyed his books.
Bill, before we sign off, share with us, what do you read? What do you collect? Or has there been a book that's actually changed your life?
Book that's changed my life.
Probably the first one you sold.
Not one book. I grew up surrounded by books. Big library. Saturday afternoon, any day. I love to read. So, I mean, one author when I became a book, I can't figure out the possible. Don't correctly get started. I'm happy to have things handled them and then find another home for them. But when I was a teenager, I was going to work, used bookshops. Which back then, one of the book companies, and I found Edward Gorey's first book, Young Story Park. I think that's it. Great, my choose. Anyway, for $10, you got that. So I don't know if that changed my life. It just started. It didn't even start. Right? There was actually I grew up in Rye, New York, and Rye auction room, directly in Port Messenger, but they had a little section there selling books for $1. And at that point, it was, I don't know, 13 or whatever. I was reading Edgar Rice. They had 3 Edgar Rice Burroughs, and they were all sorts of books that after mine the box. Ours on the and then, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I was that age, I got hooked on Sherlock Holmes and read everything from the beginning to the end. How about you, Lee? Did you ever read a serialization of books?
Well, like most preteen girls in my day, we read Nancy Drew and
Of course.
Others of that ilk. Trixie Belden was another one, and Cherry Ames, Student Nurse. But my book club, it has the last 2 meetings. Each of us individually has talked about a book that from either our childhood or teen years that we especially liked, or that had an influence on us. And I'm going to do some segments on that. But that was really interesting because we had everything from little children's books that that you learned to read by, to things that people read in their teen years, and it's been a really interesting thing. I chose a book called Green Dolphin Street. I was really into these family saga kind of things that spanned 50 to 100 years in different locales. Things like James Michener wrote, a little later on than this one was. This was in the 40s. I wasn't there in the 40s, but I read it when I was about middle school age, and I reread it, for this and really enjoyed it again. And one member read Black Beauty and recalled being in tears reading it about the treatment of the horses. And, that she had to stop reading it, and her mother was trying to comfort her about it. And it did have an effect on treatment of horses. The Anna Sewell's crusade for better treatment, particularly of draft horses, in cab horses and things like that, really has some effect. And so we've had a really good time with it. And most of these books were not life-changing, kind of things.
But we remember them.
That we look back on fondly, and that encouraged our love of reading. So, it doesn't have to be life-changing to do that.
Sure. All right, folks, we'd love to hear from you. What books in your adolescent years gave you the most pleasure and you think back fondly on them? Drop us a note, send us an email, or just hear from us in whatever way you can.
You can make
this
notes.
e-world.
You can send us notes on the chat function.
Yeah, the chapbook. Thank
Yes,
you,
yes.
Lee.
that's what it's called.
Excuse me for my technological inferiority. Bill, it's been a pleasure having you join us from the top right corner of the United States.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Enjoy.
And I'm going to look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Perfect.
All right, everybody, that's it. Another episode of the Rare Book Cafe, the Coffee Break Edition. The Book Lovers Rendezvous. You can rendezvous with us every week on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or stop by the Boston Shadow Fair and meet our co-host and guest, Bill Lippincott.
It's
Thanks,
on October
everybody.
28th.
I'll see you there.
October
Bye.
28th. Ciao, Bella.